Okay, I get lots of questions about how to use Google Earth to help with fishing and finding places, and just how to make it work to make a more enjoyable day out on the water. When you open Google Earth, you're going to have this sidebar that opens up. In general, on the layers, I like to have borders and labels, maybe places and roads. That's kind of all you need. You can play around with the other settings there, so you can get that out of your way. The search, I usually kind of have that minimized or closed. And then the places, these are your waypoints, your files and folders where you're going to store your waypoints, and I'm going to go over that in a separate video. So you can close out this or hide this sidebar by just clicking right here, and then you just got all map on your screen. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to zoom in here to a body of water that is on the Columbia River upstream. It's not a pool that I've ever been on before, so I want to kind of cover this from start to finish in terms of what to look for, how to kind of scout things out on Google Earth, and how to make that translate to what you do on the water. One of the most important features of Google Earth is this historical imagery button, and by clicking this you have access to different points in time when imagery was taken. So there's two parts to this slider here. This one will turn this sidebar back on. This one here will impact where your waypoints show up. So based on the date of your waypoints, see, here's potholes. You can see I've got a whole bunch of waypoints there. So some of those will, depending on when those were made, some of those will go away. You can see them popping in and out there a little bit. If I zoomed in more, you could see them pop in and out. And you can turn and take all your toggle off all your places, and then you don't have that second feature on the slider here. So this one just works back and forth and gives you different images, different points in time. So going back to this Priest Rapids Lake pool, I've got an imagery date of 5/6/2015, and I've got an image date of 7/9/2013. So since I'm gonna be on this body of water in July, this will work good. I've got a July 7th or July 9th imagery here, so this will work good. So from dam to dam, let's see how big a pool this is. So I can use this ruler here. Now I've got an option of line, which would be a straight line. So I want to measure the river miles here, so I'm not going to use a straight line. I'm going to go more in a path. So I'm going to start right here at the upstream dam, and I'm just going to basically follow the river down, make a little path all the way to the dam, the lower dam. And you see I've got just over 17.5 miles. So in terms of as pools go on the Columbia, this is one of the smaller pools. 17 miles isn't much at all. Most of the pools are 30, 40, 50 miles in length, and so this is a relatively short pool. I want to show you some things that all of the pools on the Columbia have in common, and I think we'll see here on this, and it's just a way to kind of categorize the river itself or the lakes itself, because depending on where you're at on the pool, the river is going to behave more like a lake or more like a river. So basically you can divide the pool into 3 sections, and that goes for all the pools. This one just happens to be smaller, shorter, easier to do. But when we look at the upriver third, there's going to be some common qualities or characteristics that you're going to see, again, not just in this pool, but in lots of the pools. So one of the distinguishing features of it is these MidRiver Islands. I call them MidRiver Islands, that are shaped and affected by the current. There's going to be heavy current in this upstream section. So I'm guessing if we zoom in here, you can almost see that the current coming off this the pilings of this train bridge, and you'll just notice in different areas the current showing up much more distinctly. So this upper third is going to behave a lot more like a river. You're going to feel like you're on a river. There's going to be strong current, so it's going to present its own set of challenges, and boat positioning and how you locate yourself and the precision of your casting is going to be much more important here. One of the most important things I look for is coloration. So hopefully when you're looking at Google Earth, you've got a good screen or the ability to distinguish between colors. But you've got a few things going on. Let's find a good example. Let's find a good starting point here. Okay, here's a big weed patch at the mouth of this creek, and you can see the coloration of this. So there's all this dirty water, stained water, muddy water, dirty water is coming down this creek and emptying into the Columbia here. And out in this, basically it forms a delta. And the upriver part of this inflow forms a delta area, and you're going to find a large weighted area and that could be matted up at times depending on what time of year you're talking about. So if you look at this in different views, see this is a September view. You don't see a lot of weeds there in that one, which is kind of interesting. Here's a May view. You can see the weeds from May to July, so it's quite a change. But most of this upper third part of the river, you're not going to see a lot of weed growth. It's going to be really isolated because there's not much out of the current. So any weed growth is going to be associated with a current seam right next to it, or it's going to be out of the current somewhat. So in this case, the current would come off of here, and the weeds would form in this slack water area. Let's see if we can find a better image here. We'll go downstream. This is perfect. Okay, so another MidRiver Island network, and this is going to show me what I want to see. Alright, the darker brown color is going to be characteristic of harder bottom, rocky bottom. Okay, this lighter tan is going to be a softer bottom, sand or silt, or very, very fine gravel, probably sand. And then here you can see a weed line that kind of traces around the border here. So these weeds are going to need a certain depth. They can't be too shallow. I mean, that's why the weeds are growing here and not here. And they prefer a little bit softer bottom. So even if it's a rocky bottom, they need something to foothold or purchase some sort of sand or sediment built up to root up in. So the reason I bring that up is because when you see weeds, you kind of know a little bit about the depth of the water, what's going on with the current, and the bottom composition. And this vegetation growth is central. It's a real key to the whole ecosystem. So we'll be talking about that a lot in times to come. But that's how I distinguish, and that's how I use the colors to tell me what the bottom is like. So I know this is going to be relatively soft bottom, sand bottom with a weed edge. I see some more rock here. This is probably some rock and sand mix. This is definitely rock here. And here are some parts of the island that are exposed. I'm guessing at different times of the year, those islands will be sticking up and showing more and less than others. So there's a good example. Here the water's pretty high for whatever reason on that day, and you can see look at the current and the water running right over that. Okay. Another good network of weeds. I see I've got an outside weed line next to the channel, and I've got an inside weed line, and along the inside weed line here I've got alleys and pockets and points. So those are all very important things to find out. And like I said, we'll go over later how to create a system of waypoints out of this and how to use that on your day of fishing. Another stretch of weeds, flat bank, relatively flat. Let's stick to this side here for now. Now when you get into the middle sections of these Columbia River pools, it's typical to find a network of sloughs in here. So if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, at one time before the dams were built, the Columbia was notorious for raging floods, which is one of the reasons that the dams were put in place. So at some point, over many times probably, the river came over the bank here, the original bank, and carved out any soft bottom areas here. And what was left is this network of sloughs and backwater areas that basically hold water almost year-round in most of these places. You see some are big, some are small. Some are almost entirely or relatively cut off from. This would be a tough one to get into unless the water was high. But you can see this water sits in here year-round. This one's connected to the river. Now this is what I call there's no inflow here. In other words, the river water, the river current is not flowing into this slough, so it's going to warm up faster in the spring and provide a pretty stable environment. It's a good sized slough. Let's see. About a mile. So a mile long slough is a good sized piece of water. I've got other pieces here, little pockets and turns. Here's another little skinny slough. I can see a mix of rock and sand, harder and softer bottom around that. Here's another area. Good look. Rocky bottom, softer bottom, some weeds, weed growth, vegetation growth. Big area here. There's a lot to this. I can just tell by looking at it. Okay, and then back to the boat ramp. So this is a nice boat ramp. I believe it's only a couple years old. So that's important to know. Where's the boat ramp? What kind of shape's it in? I mean, you compare that that ramp to, I believe there's another one up in here somewhere. Oh, right here. No, that's not it. I don't see any other ramps. Oh, right here. Here's another ramp, but not near as nice as the one right down by Desert Air. And when you get to the lower third of the river, you typically got bluff walls, much steeper banks, deeper water. This is a little bit unique, and not the name Goose Island, because that's common. I don't know how many Goose Islands are on the Columbia. I think every pool has at least one. But the layout of this, fact that there's an island so close to the upstream end of a dam, is kind of unique. Now, on these bluff walls, what you're going to find is the only real unique feature here. I mean, it's pretty subtle, but anywhere you've got a drain, see these drains? When the water, well, there's runoff from snow or a storm, these drains will file down here, and then this water sediment will build up here along the water and kind of extend out, kind of create these what I call flat points on the Columbia. And so those are key little pieces. Here's another one. Here's a drain. Here's a flat point. Another drain. Another flat point. Another drain. Another flat point. So other than that, you're just going to see a long series of riprap, and then punctuated by some variation here that corresponds to almost every time with some sort of drain up there. There's either a drain going on with it, or for the contour to really flatten out, let's see, like up in here you've got an inside bend. So this is an inside turn or inside bend of the river. This is the outside turn. So you can see, just look at the contour difference here. The inside bend is much flatter, and this outside bend is much steeper. And then when the river straightens out again, it equalizes somewhat. So that's an overview of what you're looking at on a typical Columbia River pool, and we'll come back next time and dig a little deeper into this and talk more about how to make waypoints on here, what to look for, what to mark, why to mark it, and then how to get those things on your units and go fish them. Alright, we'll see you next time.